Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari came together for a highly important Pirelli tyre test at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, and what happened during this test could have a big impact on the future of Formula One. This was not a normal test session. It was intense, demanding, and full of challenges designed to gather valuable data, not just for the tyre supplier Pirelli, but also for Ferrari as they prepare for the 2025 season and beyond. Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, was given the job of pushing the SF24 car to its limits under very difficult conditions, and the results were surprising and encouraging for the Italian team. The SF24 was set up with a low downforce package for this test. That means the car had reduced grip, especially at high speeds. Normally, cars are set up with as much downforce as possible at the Barcelona circuit to improve cornering speed and stability. But this time, the goal was to simulate the handling characteristics expected under the upcoming 2026 regulations, which will bring major changes to car aerodynamics. With less aerodynamic support, the tyres had to work harder, and that's exactly what Pirelli wanted to observe. They needed to understand how their future tyres would perform under such extreme conditions. Driving a car with low downforce is difficult, even for the most skilled drivers. The car becomes more unstable, especially in fast corners. But from the moment Hamilton stepped into the SF24, it was clear he was comfortable. Observers and engineers noticed how calm and focused he was. He didn't rush into fast laps. Instead, he built up his pace gradually, learning how the car behaved with less grip and how the tyres responded to different inputs. This measured approach allowed him to find a rhythm quickly and start delivering competitive lap times. Even though the exact lap times were not officially released, reports from those close to the team suggest that Hamilton was lapping in the low 1 minute 20 seconds range. This is especially impressive when you consider that with a regular high downforce setup, top drivers aim for lap times in the mid-118s to 119s. So, Hamilton was just 1 or 2 seconds slower in a car that was much harder to drive. That shows how adaptable and skilled he is behind the wheel. Hamilton's feedback during the test was detailed and helpful for the engineers. He mentioned that the rear of the car was tricky, especially when accelerating out of slower corners like turn 10. Despite the challenges, he praised the car's stability under braking. This is important because one of Ferrari's goals was to reduce tyre degradation, and Hamilton confirmed that their changes were working. His ability to give such precise feedback about tyre performance helped Pirelli gather the information. They needed to continue developing tyres for the future. This wasn't Hamilton's first test with Ferrari, but it was by far the most successful. In an earlier session with the SF23, things hadn't gone well. On the second day of testing, Hamilton lost control and crashed the car. This cut short Ferrari's data collection plans and caused delays in their program. Charles Leclerc was supposed to continue testing that day, but missed out on valuable time because of the crash. So, there was a lot of pressure on Hamilton this time around to do better, and he certainly did. He showed that he had learned from his mistakes and adjusted his driving style to suit the low downforce setup. Throughout the day, Hamilton completed several high-quality stints, allowing Pirelli to collect a large amount of useful data. He didn't just handle the tough conditions, he performed well under them. His consistent lap times and detailed feedback gave Ferrari and Pirelli exactly what they needed. This could be a major advantage for Ferrari, not only for next year but also for preparing for the big rule changes coming in 2026. Ferrari's engineers were reportedly very happy with Hamilton's performance. One insider even said that having a driver like Lewis in the car changes everything. He notices small details that other drivers might miss, and that's extremely valuable when it comes to developing both tyres and car setups. His experience and feel for the car are unmatched, and that helped the team make sense of how the SF24 behaves in such an unusual configuration. While Hamilton was focusing on the SF24 and the future of F1, Leclerc was also testing, but with the older SF23 car. His job was to fine-tune the handling of the previous generation of cars, making up for the time he lost in the earlier test. But even with both drivers on the track, it was Hamilton's performance that stood out the most. He took on the harder job with the more difficult car setup, and delivered the results the team needed. For Hamilton, this test was more than just another day at work. It was a chance to show that he's still one of the best drivers on the grid, capable of handling any challenge. Even with a car that was stripped of much of its aerodynamic grip, he stayed in control, learned quickly, and helped Ferrari gather critical data. This kind of performance could influence how the team approaches their car design and race strategies for the 2025 season. It might even give Hamilton the edge he needs to fight for wins again. The SF24 itself is an important step forward for Ferrari. Although it didn't win the Constructors' Championship last year, it was competitive. Leclerc and Carlos Sainz managed to win 5 races with it, and the car showed big improvements in cornering and tyre wear compared to older models. But for this Pirelli test, the car was heavily modified. With much less downforce, it behaved very differently, and this gave Ferrari a chance to learn how their machines might perform under the 2026 rules. Reduced downforce puts more stress on the tyres, making them harder to manage over a full race distance. Teams need to understand how to deal with that, and Hamilton's test helped give Ferrari a better idea of what they need to work on. It also gave Pirelli important data to improve their tyre designs. They now have a better understanding of how future tyres need to perform when there's less aerodynamic help from the car. The fact that Hamilton could drive well under such conditions is a good sign for Ferrari. If they can build a car that handles well even with reduced grip, they might be one step ahead when the new rules arrive. And with a driver like Hamilton helping guide their development, they have a strong chance of making real progress. Although the main focus was on testing 2026 tyres, the data collected during this session will also help shape Ferrari's strategy for 2025. Tyre wear and handling are always important, and teams that can control them better often have a big advantage. With input from Hamilton and Leclerc, Pirelli can now adjust their tyre designs to meet the needs of the new generation of F1 cars. This cooperation between drivers, teams, and the tyre supplier is essential to keep the sport competitive. For Hamilton, this test could also be a turning point. He joined Ferrari hoping to help them return to the top of Formula One, but it was always going to be a big challenge. The team has had ups and downs in recent years, often falling behind Red Bull and Mercedes. But the potential shown in the SF24 during this test might give Hamilton hope. It shows that with the right setup and continued development, Ferrari could become real title contenders again. It's important to note that Ferrari was not the only team testing in Barcelona. McLaren and Alpine were also there, working on their own programs. The race to understand how cars will behave under the 2026 rules has already begun, and every team wants to find the secrets that will give them an edge. But Ferrari's test with Hamilton drew the most attention, and for good reason. It showed that they are serious about preparing for the future and that they have a driver capable of leading that effort. This test was about more than just data. It was about confidence, teamwork, and preparation. Hamilton showed that he can still perform at a very high level, even under extreme conditions. Ferrari showed that they are willing to take bold steps to improve their car, and Pirelli got the information they need to make better tyres. All of this could come together to change the direction of the 2020